When we gaze upon the skylines of the 19th century world, from St. Petersburg to Washington, D.C., a glaring anomaly demands explanation: the obsession with gold-plated domes. Mainstream historians insist this excessive use of the world's most conductive precious metal was merely for religious ornamentation. Yet, an electrical engineer looking at these structures sees something entirely different. They do not resemble mere places of worship. They mirror the precise schematic of a high-voltage electrostatic collector. Gold remains the premier non-corrosive conductor known to man. In the late 1800s, covering a massive dome in pure gold leaf represented an astronomical expense that defies simple decorative logic. If the goal was merely aesthetic, paint would have sufficed. However, obscure technical patents suggest a functional imperative. These metallic skins were not designed to shine for divinity, but supposedly to interact with the atmospheric ether, acting as the primary terminals of a forgotten wireless power grid. Beneath these gilded surfaces lies a complex network of iron armatures connecting the apex directly to aquifers deep underground. To a physicist, this creates a perfect circuit between the positively charged ionosphere and the negatively charged Earth. Yet history books ignore this function. Documents recovered from the era suggest a different reality, a civilization that mastered atmospheric energy before the age of oil. Why was this technology dismantled?
Consider the geometry itself. In electrostatics, a dome represents the ideal shape for accumulating and holding charge, identical to the sphere of a modern Van de Graaff generator. Physics dictates that static charge distributes uniformly on the surface of a hollow conductor. By raising these conductive hemispheres high above the city, architects weren't just building roofs. A controversial theory proposes they were constructing massive capacitors designed to tap into the vertical potential gradient of the sky. It wasn't just the metal. The masonry itself played a crucial role. These structures were invariably constructed using specific types of granite and sandstone, rich in quartz crystals. Quartz is a piezoelectric material, meaning it generates an electrical charge under mechanical stress. Under the immense weight of these colossal towers, the stone itself supposedly became active. This combination of conductive gold roofs and piezoelectric stone bases suggests a machine designed for resonance, not just stability.
Inside these vast echo chambers, another anomaly appears. Archives indicate that many religious sites originally contained basins of mercury, a heavy, conductive liquid metal. When a gold dome captures atmospheric charge and directs it downward through the masonry, mercury at the base could theoretically act as a grounding interface or a vortex generator. Researchers suggest this created a potent electromagnetic field, transforming the entire building into a gigantic, habitable Leyden jar. This collected energy was likely not meant for the building alone. Examine high-resolution panoramic photographs of cities like Moscow or Paris taken in the 1860s. Streets appear illuminated, yet power lines are conspicuously absent. The theory posits that these gold-domed structures functioned as central broadcasting nodes. Just as a Tesla coil wirelessly illuminates a fluorescent bulb held nearby, these architectural giants purportedly ionized the surrounding air, powering street lamps without a single wire connecting them.
This isn't just architectural speculation.
In 1860, Lord Kelvin scientifically proved the existence of the Earth's vertical electric field, measuring 100 volts for every meter of elevation. At the height of a cathedral spire, the potential difference reaches thousands of volts. These architects weren't merely building high for spiritual reasons. Documents suggest they were reaching for high-voltage atmospheric potential, turning the entire structure into a functional power plant. Observe the massive rose windows found in every major Gothic structure. To a modern acoustical engineer, these are not mere stained glass art. Their geometric patterns align perfectly with cymatics, the visualization of sound frequencies. Theories suggest that when the massive pipe organs played specific resonant frequencies, these circular apertures acted as directional transmitters, projecting not just sound, but localized fields of vibrational energy into the surrounding city.
It is unsettling to realize how much advanced engineering has been quietly removed from our history books. The precision of these structures rivals modern capabilities, yet we are told they were built by primitive means. If you are fascinated by this lost chapter of human ingenuity and want to help support the excavation of these forbidden truths, please like this video and subscribe. Your support helps us keep this research alive. The dismantling of this grid wasn't sudden. It was disguised as restoration. Between 1920 and 1940, thousands of historical buildings underwent massive structural changes. Photographic evidence reveals the systematic removal of intricate metal armatures from spires and domes. Authorities claimed these conductors were safety hazards or needed for the war effort, but the timing is suspicious. It coincides perfectly with the global standardization of the paid electrical grid. World War I provided the perfect cover. Governments demanded vast quantities of copper and iron for the front lines. Conveniently, the antiquated ornamentation on public buildings was the first to be harvested. Under the guise of patriotism, the functional hardware of the etheric grid was stripped away, melted down, and erased. By the time the war ended, the wireless infrastructure was gone, replaced by the metered copper wires of the new electric monopolies. The transition was absolute. We shifted from a civilization of silent, resonating stone and atmospheric potential to a world of noise, combustion, and smoke. The photographs tell the story. Pre-industrial skylines were clear, dominated by these clean energy spires. Post-1920, the skies turned black with coal dust. We seemingly traded a wireless, infinite abundance for a finite, metered scarcity. Was this truly technological evolution or a calculated regression? The choice of materials offers the smoking gun. Copper oxidizes, forming a green patina that, while beautiful, eventually acts as an electrical insulator. Gold never corrodes. It remains the perfect conductor eternally. Why would builders waste fortunes gilding rooftop pinnacles where no human eye could appreciate the detail? Engineering logic dictates this was functional. They were ensuring that the contact point with the atmospheric field remained chemically pure and electrically active for centuries. Look closely at the ironwork atop these domes. They are rarely simple religious crosses. Instead, they display complex fractal geometries resembling modern multiband antennas. From an electrical perspective, sharp points and fractal shapes increase charge density, facilitating the corona discharge effect. This design allows the structure to bleed off or collect static electricity from the air with much higher efficiency than a smooth surface. It appears to be sophisticated engineering, disguised as theology.
If these structures collected energy, where did it go? The answer may lie inside. Historical accounts describe the atmosphere within these cathedrals as electrified or healing. Before they were filled with wooden pews for passive listening, these vast stone chambers were open spaces. Theories suggest they functioned as healing capacitors. The electrostatic field, modulated by the geometry of the building, supposedly created an ionization effect capable of cellular regeneration and mental clarity. This brings us to the massive pipe organs. We are told they are musical instruments, but why build a machine capable of generating infrasound frequencies so low they can be felt but not heard? In the context of energy, sound is vibration. These organs may have been frequency modulators, tuning the electromagnetic field of the cathedral. By vibrating the quartz-rich stone masonry, they could amplify the piezoelectric effect, turning the entire building into a resonating energy bell.
The network extended far beyond the cities. Consider the star forts found on every continent. Mainstream history labels them defensive fortifications, yet their complex fractal geometry offers no military advantage against cannon fire. From an electrical perspective, they appeared to be massive cymatic resonators surrounded by water. These structures were likely the hydroelectric substations of the Old World, conditioning the water supply with the same etheric charge collected by the towers. However, this era of free energy met a catastrophic end. The evidence is literally beneath our feet, the mud flood. Walk through the historic districts of London, Moscow, or Chicago. You will see windows cut in half by the sidewalk, leading into basements that were clearly once ground floors. Architects do not build windows facing into soil. This global architectural anomaly suggests a sudden, massive cataclysm buried the lower levels of this civilization. The network extended far beyond the cities. Consider the star forts found on every continent. Mainstream history labels them defensive fortifications, yet their complex fractal geometry offers no military advantage against cannon fire. From an electrical perspective, they appeared to be massive cymatic resonators surrounded by water. These structures were likely the hydroelectric substations of the Old World, conditioning the water supply with the same etheric charge collected by the towers. However, this era of free energy met a catastrophic end. The evidence is literally beneath our feet, the mud flood. Walk through the historic districts of London, Moscow, or Chicago. You will see windows cut in half by the sidewalk, leading into basements that were clearly once ground floors. Architects do not build windows facing into soil. This global architectural anomaly suggests a sudden, massive cataclysm buried the lower levels of this civilization. This soil accumulation wasn't a slow geological process. Photography from the mid-19th century shows excavation crews digging out these magnificent structures from feet of mud. The implication is terrifying. A worldwide event occurred that either wiped out the original population or forced a reset. We are likely the inheritors, living in the ruins of a superior civilization, misusing their advanced machines as simple churches and municipal buildings. To manage these recovered ruins, the narrative of the World Fairs was likely invented. In Chicago and St. Louis, we see sprawling Greco-Roman cities labeled as temporary exhibits, built of plaster and hemp. The official story claims these architectural marvels were raised in mere months by unskilled labor, only to be demolished immediately after. It defies all construction logic. Perhaps these were not built, but found, the recovered capitals of the old empire, showcased once last before being deliberately burned. The pattern is undeniable. Almost every major World's Fair ended in a sudden catastrophic fire. We are told these fires spread quickly because the buildings were made of flammable staff and wood. Yet photographs of the aftermath showed twisted steel girders and piles of brick, materials that do not belong in temporary sets. This suggests a systematic purge. The controllers likely needed to destroy these active energy nodes to pave the way for the new metered oil economy. Following the fires, a new infrastructure emerged. Look at photographs from the early 1900s. Magnificent stone cities suddenly cluttered with crude wooden poles and tangled wires. We traded an elegant, wireless, etheric connection for a primitive system of copper cables and combustion. The narrative suggests this wasn't an upgrade, but a hostile takeover. A technological downgrade designed to monetize energy that was once as free as the air. The surviving power plants were repurposed. What we identify today as historic post offices, state capitals, and banks are merely the hollowed-out shells of these ancient energy stations. The resonant cavities were filled with bureaucratic offices, the mercury drained, and the gold domes disconnected from the aquifers. They kept the architectural majesty to intimidate the population, but systematically removed the function that could have liberated it. It wasn't just the physical structures that were dismantled, the science itself was rewritten. In the late 19th century, the concept of the luminiferous ether, an all-pervading energy field, was central to physics. Maxwell and Tesla relied on it. But by 1920, the ether was abruptly declared non-existent by new academic theories. This wasn't a scientific evolution, but a necessary erasure. You cannot harvest energy from a field you are taught does not exist. Today, we walk past these architectural giants, unaware we stand in the shadow of dormant machines. We marvel at the art of the gold leaf, blind to the utility that defined it. We have become a civilization of scavengers, occupying the shell of a world we no longer understand, paying metered rates for energy that our ancestors likely pulled freely from the sky. The blueprints were not entirely destroyed. They were built in stone, leaving us a roadmap hidden in plain sight. The physics of the ether remains waiting. The vertical potential gradient of the Earth still pulses with thousands of volts, untapped. The machine has been turned off, but the components remain intact, waiting for a generation brave enough to flip the switch. This investigation is not a call to return to the past, but an invitation to reclaim a stolen future. By studying the impossible architecture of the 1800s, we may unlock the potential for a new energy paradigm. The gold domes stand as silent witnesses. They do not require fuel. They do not create smoke. They simply wait for us to remember how to tune the frequency. We are left with a haunting question: who really built this? The official narrative claims horse and buggy civilizations constructed these electromechanical miracles with simple chisels and wooden scaffolds, but the sheer scale suggests a lost race of master builders. We are likely living in a post-apocalyptic reality, squatting in the palaces of a higher order. The mud flood buried the truth, but the spires still pierce the sky, challenging us to look up and question everything. The evidence is carved in stone and cast in gold. We have explored the theory of atmospheric capacitors, the function of mercury, and the tragedy of the world fairs. The past is not what we were told. It is a crime scene of forgotten engineering. If you believe this history deserves to be remembered, share this video to keep the signal alive. Until the next investigation, keep your eyes on the horizon. The truth is hidden in plain sight.